Hello, this is Kate. I'm Woolly Faye. Welcome to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look at the half slip double. Now that is not the same as the half double crochet slip stitch. In this stitch, you're actually going to begin working a double crochet stitch, and then half of that stitch will actually be a slip stitch. As you can see, it's a very dense stitch, and it's really good for all kinds of things, purses, belts, and a number of different things. I think you're going to like it. Now, the pattern that you see here is actually my pattern, and it'll be in my shop in the near future. If you've noticed I haven't posted in a while, it's because I have been testing the pattern, and I am in the process of doing the final bit here, so that will be up shortly. So we're not going to be working with this one today. Instead, we're going to be working with a worsted weight wool acrylic mix. This is a DK weight cotton. I'm going to be using a size 5mm hook for this tutorial, so it's going to give us a little bit of a different look, and this one is worked on the front side only. I'm going to be giving you this tutorial. We're going to be working a number of lines, so it's going to be a very short swatch for that reason. And those lines are going to show you how you can work it front and back and how you can work it front side only. So it'll just give you a full cover on these stitches that are used in this pattern, but the primary one being the half slip double. So the first thing that you need to do is to create a slip knot and then chain 25. Go ahead and hit pause, and when you're ready, we will resume. Okay, so if you've completed the foundation chain, we are now going to put our first stitches in, and this is what we call our foundation row, and we're going to be working into the back bump. So just to be clear, the one side of your chain will be flat and the other side will have bumps on it. It will look like little ridges, okay? So you're going to be working a slip stitch into each one of these back bumps, every single one of them, and you're going to be starting with the second bump on the chain. Now this second bump often looks like the first bump. That's because here's your first bump over here. As you can see, it gets a little bit obscure because of the loop. It's swallowed up a bit, so it's not real easy to see. So your second bump probably looks like your first, but it's right there. So it'll be the clearest standalone in most cases. One way to be sure is to turn that sideways and just count those stitches. You got 1, 2, you got these chains, 1, 2. If you turn that over, of course, your finger is right there on it. So there's your second one, and there's your back bump. So if you're unsure, that's one way that you can tell. So we're going to slip stitch under every single one of those. So that means you just put your hook up under that bump. Now I've probably made that a little tight playing with it. You're going to pull that loop through, and then you're just going to slip stitch the first loop through the second. And when I do that, I like to just kind of exaggerate that and be sure and pull that out plenty. Not too much. You don't want it sloppy, but you also don't want it tight. Tight slip stitches are really hard to work into. So just give it a little extra tug there when you pull it up. Go into the next back bump underneath it, pull up a loop, and of course another slip stitch. And I just kind of exaggerate that pull a little, just slightly, not a lot. Back up under the next one, pull up a loop, and again slip stitch. So I'm just kind of giving it a bit of a exaggerated pull, and I go up under the next, and you're just going to slip stitch all the way down. You're going to go up under every single back loop. Because you started in the second, you will have lost a stitch, so you should end up with 24 stitches on your foundation row. So go ahead and pause your video, and I will see you when you have completed the foundation row, and hit play. We will resume from there. So you should have 24 slip stitches on your foundation row. When you've got that, you need to turn the work over, okay? Chain one, and that will count as your first stitch. And because it counts as your first stitch, you're going to skip this stitch here and move to the next. But we're not going to be working into the top here. We're going to be working into the back loop of the slip stitch. And because the back loop was worked into the back bump, which was in the center of the foundation chain, they're a little further back here than they would be normally. So you kind of need, you're working this side, but you kind of need to turn the work this way. and just kind of work up under this back loop here. Like I said, it's only this far back because we've worked it into that center bump on the foundation chain. So go ahead and wrap like you're going to do a double crochet. Insert your hook under that second stitch as a back loop. You're going to pull it through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Now this is where it changes. You're going to slip stitch this loop into this one. So the first loop next to your hook into the middle one, the second one over. There we go. So that's 2 loops now on your hook. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now you're just going to repeat that. You're going to wrap, go up under that loop. That'll be your back loop. Now be sure you're not coming all the way down here. You want to look at your stitch and actually get the second loop. So that'll be your first, and that will be your second. First, second. So don't go all the way down here, okay? You're going to go up under that, pull up a loop. You're going to slip stitch the first loop through the second. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Again, wrap up under that loop, pull up a loop, slip stitch this one through that one, the first one through the second, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So I want you to go ahead and do that. It's just a repeat of that step that I've shown you. You're going to continue to do that all the way down, hit play, and when you're ready to resume, we'll hit pause, and when you're ready to resume, hit play again. Okay, so I've completed this, and as you can see, we've got these little spiral, okay, these little bars. They're real snug, okay, forming right here, real tight. Now this is a worsted weight. It's quite a heavy yarn. You can see how thick it is. So even with that, you get this nice dense stitch. So when you want to work that on both sides, you're actually going to turn the work over, and we're going to slip stitch, but go ahead because you were going to skip that first stitch and chain 1. And then go ahead at this point, you're going to insert under the back loop, and as you can see, it's just a little closer to the top this time because we're not working into that foundation row where we worked into the back bump. So it's a little easier to see these now, as you can see, and it will be from here on out. So again, the same principle applies. You want to pull that loop up plenty tall, and then just go ahead and continue to slip stitch all the way across. Now we'll be doing this again with these slip stitches. We'll be doing a different type of slip stitch so you can see a different way of doing that. But let's just go ahead and get it established how we work these front and back, and then we'll shake it up a bit from there. So go ahead, add another row of slip stitches into the back loop only, and then when you're ready to resume, hit play. Okay, so if you've completed that row, then you want to turn that around and get that tail out of the way. And you're going to chain 1 just like you did before. And you're going to repeat what you did on the previous row. You're going to be working into the back loop, which is right here. So you're going to wrap, go into that back loop, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Slip stitch the first to the second. Yarn over and pull through 2. Wrap, go into the back loop. Oh. Go. Pull up a loop. Slip stitch the first through the second. Yarn over and pull through 2. Wrap, go into the back loop. Pull up a loop. Slip stitch the first through the second. Yarn over and pull through 2. Wrap, go into the back loop, go, pull up a loop, slip stitch the first through the second, yarn over and pull through 2. Go ahead and do that, and then when you finish, I'm going to show you another type of slip stitch that you can use for a slightly different look. So if you have completed your second row of half slip doubles, as you can see, that pattern is starting to emerge. And you will notice this little ridge here that you didn't have in the one that I showed you. That's because we're working both sides. And as I promised, we'll be working one side only here shortly, but we're going to go ahead real quick and just do one different type of slip stitch so that you can see how the half double crochet slip stitch looks rather than the single crochet slip stitch. So we've got a regular slip stitch here. We're going to just do the half double crochet slip stitch real quick. And of course, this is a half slip double. There's two different things. So you've done that, and we're going to turn our work over. Okay, we're going to go ahead and chain one. We're going to skip this first stitch, and we're going to move directly into this one to do the half double crochet slip stitch. We're actually going to wrap our yarn, so you're just going to back that into there and wrap it over and insert your hook. You can do it into the back loop only, and you just see which one you like better, but we're going to go ahead this time and just go into both, just mix it up a bit. All right, so we're going to pull up a loop. You're going to slip stitch this first loop through these two. So real quick, because this is the first one, it's a little awkward, but we got it through. Okay, wrap again, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, slip stitch the first one through the next two. So do that all the way down. Like I said, you're going to wrap, insert your hook, pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, insert, slip stitch the first one through the last 2. Just go ahead and complete your row, and when you get to the end, hit play and we will resume. Okay, so I've completed that half double crochet slip stitch. I'm going to turn my work around, and of course, as you'll see, we have these little loops on the front. They're a little different from the half slip double because these are more of a knotty post, whereas these are just really, they form a kind of a ridge. So when we go ahead and put our half slip doubles into the top, we're going to chain one. We're going to skip the first one. Okay, so what we're going to do now, because we're going to actually start working front side only, so we're going to go ahead and prep for that now. So go ahead and put those under both loops, because we're going to do a couple front side only after we finish this row. Okay, so you're going to wrap and go into the second from your hook, insert it, pull up a loop, and then of course slip stitch the first one through the second one, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so you wrap it, insert the hook. We're going to go under both loops this time. You're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to slip stitch the first through the second. And I know I'm being repetitive, but that is how we learn, is through repetition. Okay, so we're wrapping, we're going into the stitch, we're going to pull up a loop, we're going to slip stitch the first through the second, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. So just continue to do that all the way down. And this time when you get to the end, don't turn your work, because we're going to do something just a little bit different so that you can get an idea about how each of these different methods look. Okay, so go ahead and stop when you get to the end, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I've come to the end of the work, and instead of turning the work, we're going to fasten off and move back to the other side to do the front side only. Similar as we would do in tapestry or mosaic, but we're not actually going to work any mosaic crochet. We're just going to go ahead and just work the front side so you can get a view of how that works. But before I do, just notice the difference here. This is your slip stitch, and then this ridge here, of course, is your half double crochet slip stitch, and then in between you have your half slip doubles. So you can see right there real clear how those are different. You can decide if you ever want to do this, if you want to work front and back. Those are the 2 different slip stitches that work best to just carry over to, so till you work the front again. Okay, so when you're ready to go back to the other side, you're going to chain 2, 1, 2. You are then going to clip your yarn off. You're going to take your hook, just pull it straight up, and then you're going to take your fingers, put it over the top of those chains you just made, slide down, and that will form a knot, and that's a very secure knot. So anytime you're working and you fasten off in this manner, that knot is going to hold really well. The one thing you need to be absolutely sure of is that you have you need to inspect your work and make sure it's like you want it, because otherwise you're going to have to clip that off and start all over. You can't just pull it back because that knot's not coming out. So when you are ready to add your yarn to the right hand side, we're working the front side only. You fastened off on the left, or if you're left-handed, you fastened off on the right. But you're ready to add your yarn at the other side at the starting point again. You put your hook up under the first 2 loops on that side. You are now going to take your yarn and you're going to pull it through. Just pull up a loop. And then you are going to chain 1. Once you've chained 1, you're then going to insert your hook back into the exact same stitch again, okay? You're going to pull up another loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to complete a single crochet. You have now added your yarn, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to work under both of these loops. We're going to begin with this one here, okay, which is bent over a little, so it's going to be a little difficult, but we're going to work up under it anyway. And the way we're going to do that is exactly like we've done before, only this time again we're working under both loops. We're working a half slip double into a half slip double. So when I do that, I always work, when I'm working a half slip double on a half slip double, I always work under both loops. Now, if I'm working a half slip double into a slip stitch, I'll work into the back loop. If I'm working a slip stitch into a half slip double, I will work into the back loop. But when I'm working the same stitch, the half slip double into the half slip double, I usually go under both loops. So you can decide what you prefer, but that gives the look that I like, okay? So I'm going to wrap, insert the hook under both loops. This is the one that's going to be contrary, but we got it under there. We're going to pull up a loop again, as we've done before, 3 loops on the hook, slip stitch the first through the second, yarn over and pull through 2. And now we go to the next stitch and work under both. Wrap, insert the hook under both loops, pull up a loop again, slip stitch the first through the second, yarn over and pull through 2. And I am repeating myself, but again, repetition is how we learn. So wrap, insert the hook under both loops, pull up a loop, slip stitch first through second, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. So go ahead and do that all the way down. We'll do it one more time so that you can get a really good visual of how that's going to look front side only. All right, so I've come to the end of my row. Once again, I chain 2. I snip that off, pull that straight up. There we go, cinch it down. Come over to the other side, and once again I'm going to stick my hook up under both of those loops. Once again, I'm going to pull the yarn through, chain 1, insert my hook back into the exact same stitch again, pull up another loop, and single crochet. Alright, so I've added the yarn to that side, and one more time before we quit, we are going to do another row of the half slip double. Again, we're going to work under both loops so we can just get a real good look at how that looks on the front side only. So you're going to wrap, insert under both hooks, pull up a loop, slip stitch the first through the second, and again, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So just go ahead now and go all the way to the end of your row. You know, notice here that when I'm doing mine, I give my hook the slightest little bit of a twist when I'm going up under there. See? Because that keeps it from catching so bad. If you're new to this, you may feel like this is a crazy stitch, but once you get used to it, as you can see, you can just zip right along, and it's pretty comfortable. But I do notice that automatically between my hand and my brain, I've begun twisting that hook just a slight bit to get it up under there quickly. So I think you'll come up with your own mechanics on it. It'll become natural to you as well. But you might just try, if you're having a little bit of trouble just manipulating that with your hands a bit, you might find that rolling that hook a bit actually gives you the result you need. Okay. It's really impossible for me to tell your brain and your hands how to work together, so it's just going to take practice. Once you get used to it, you'll just zip right along as well. So we're coming up to the end here. All right. And to finish it off, I am going to chain 2. Snip it off and do exactly as I did before. I'm going to pull that hook up, cinch that down, and voila, here we go. So as you can see, we begin to get those tight rolls, okay? As you can see, that you saw in the other pattern. This is an air-on weight, so it's a little different than the cotton. It's acrylic and wool. It's just a little bit different than that cotton that I showed you. Okay, and then of course here we used a half double crochet slip stitch, and then here we used a regular slip stitch. So that's how those look. And again, if you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to like and subscribe, and give me a thumbs up, a comment, or share with your friends. Thank you, and I'll see you the next time.